And welcome to another episode 2, in fact, of Cristo Putting the World Right. Today with Charlie Rowley. Hello, Charlie Rowley.
Hello. Did you see the second episode? I'm
It is
not
the
the,
second.
I'm not the first.
You're not the first, but I'm barely touched by human hand. Benedict Spence was there before you. And of course, if you'd like to watch that episode, it's also on my channel. And I should say, because apparently it's quite important, that before I welcome you properly, Charlie, please subscribe. Apparently, subscribers are really important on YouTube. Who knew?
Who knew? Yes.
How are
he,
you, Charlie Rowley?
he must have cut the queue. He must have done a Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield and jumped the queue, did he?
Do you know what? He managed to squeeze in just before you.
He slipped himself in, did he?
He just slid in, and you know what? I barely noticed. I barely noticed, Charlie.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to have a drink while we're doing this because it's a Friday evening. And aren't you having a drink, Charlie, in your nice blue t-shirt there?
Well, I did. I've gone for a traditional Friday night savvy bee.
Oh, sort of Lambrusco,
Yeah.
not a
No, no.
not a
A
lammy
nice,
bee.
not a lammy, but no, a Sauvignon Blanc. Very nice for a Friday night, I
Oh,
think, at home. So cheers.
well, I'm having a vodka, so I'm just going to pour that. Now, today, coming up, we're going to be talking about Trump and some of the derangement syndrome over some of the people that are hysterical at the idea of that funny word. What's it called? Oh, democracy. We're going to be talking about Narinda. And now Narinda is a great friend of mine, but she has seemingly lost the plot with her comments on Kate Middleton. We might talk about 4-day week. We might talk about my new teeth, which I might show off in just a moment. I know Charlie's very, very keen to look at those. And
I need
also,
my sunglasses. I need them out for
well,
that, do I?
you have a fair mouthful of teeth there, don't you, yourself? You do.
I, I do, yes. I'm always smiling, but especially
Yes.
when I see you.
But you do have quite a few teeth in your mouth, don't you, Charlie? I mean, have you ever been told that you're quite a toothy person? Cheers, by the way.
Cheers. Cheers.
Have you ever been told you're quite toothy?
Um, I think maybe in the once, maybe before, once or twice, but not. I think it's just I am what I am.
You
Um,
are. You are. You'll be singing that later in some of the
these,
more salubrious bars
yeah.
in in downtown South London. Do you know what this reminds me of, Charlie? Do you know us, you and I, sharing a drink and a conversation? It reminds me of now anyone who didn't listen to my talk TV show may not be aware of this, but it's the time when Charlie and I were out for a drink, and we were at the Conservative Party conference. And I was lucky enough to be invited to the LGBT Tory party, which was taking place in actually quite a salubrious bar in Birmingham. And you know Albie Amancona, don't you, Charlie? Dear Albie.
Oh, I'm afraid so.
Yes, we love Albie. He's a nice, nice boy. And he said to me beforehand, he said, Christo, he said, you don't want to queue. He said, you don't want to be stuck outside in that queue. He said, I'm on the list of LGBT tourists. I will put you on the guest list. Do you remember that, Charlie?
Oh yes, he's on the committee. He's
He's
a
on the
committee member.
committee. He's on the committee. So you and I, we make our way there, don't we, to this sort of late night bar, to this glamorous party that's taking place where, and bearing in mind, it is where most of the gay Tories go, so it needed to be a fairly large venue, let's be honest. And of course, you're walking to the queue, and the lady on the door, she had a clipboard and an attitude. She saw you and she said, "Oh dear, Charlie Rowley," didn't she? She was happy to see you, wasn't she, Charlie?
I mean, it's embarrassing that it happens everywhere these days, Christo, I have to say.
And then I get to the queue with you, and she says, "Oh," she goes down the list. She says, "Oh, Charlie, you're there." And then I say, "Oh, hi, I'm on the list as well, Cristo." And she looks down and she says, "What does she say?
Who?
What did she say, the lady at the door, when she looked for my
No,
name, Charlie?"
that's what she said. She said, "Who?"
Oh, I thought he'd lost the thread of the story. Right, right. She said, "Who?" And I said, "Christo." And this woman, I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but I want her to be operating border control. because she had that bit of power and she knew how to utilize it. Because she said to me, she said, "You're not on the list." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Albie, dear Albie, who's on the committee. He's on the committee. He put me on the list." And her response was, "Albie doesn't have the power to put you on the list." Now, at this point, I said, "Well, look, my dear friend Charlie is on the list, and clearly I was supposed to be on the list. Do you think you could let me in first with Charlie?" And she said, "I'm afraid not." And before that sentence had even left my mouth, you were gone. You were inside. You ditched me like a bad smell.
Well, for security reasons, you'll understand, because if I'm out on the street for too long these days, I'll be mobbed, Cristo. It happens. It
You
happens.
you could smell my desperation. You could smell that I was not a person who was in with the in crowd. And oh, do you know what? When the fire alarm went off at Talk TV, you didn't move as quickly as you did leaving me in that.
But she did say you could queue and it would only take 5 minutes.
Oh, she gave me the honor of queuing. Thank you. And thank you for waiting. Did you wait at the door for me then to get in?
I was getting the drinks. I was getting the drinks
Yes, at that point in the VIP
in the
area. So
VIP area.
and then I got in there and I was like, and so then there was a VIP area. And what did I do? I went up and I think the same guy or a different guy, this guy, apparently someone called Luke, I found out, was on the door of the VIP area. And I was peering into the VIP area and I could see you and Albie and I think even dear Darren Grimes might have been in there. And I said, "Well, look, all of my friends are in the VIP area. Please, could I just come in and have a drink with them?" And and then he said, "No, I'm sorry. This is a very, very exclusive area. You cannot come in." Now, at this point, I realized the more that I asked, everyone in the VIP area could see me at the door of the VIP area trying to get in. At this point, you turned your back, hadn't you?
Well, I I wouldn't say I turned my back. I would have had to have noticed you first, and I didn't notice you at all. Chris,
Too
I'm
busy
sorry.
living it up with all those VIP gays. And so, we've only recently made up after that incident, haven't we, Charlie?
We have. I mean, VIP is a very loose term for some of the people that were there. I mean, I didn't recognize half of them, I'm afraid, and I don't think they recognized themselves by the end of the evening, but that's
And
how
of
it
course,
goes.
and loose is not the first time that particular word has been used in a sentence associated with you, Charlie. And I mean that with love. I mean that in the way in which it sounds.
Thank you. I know you do, but it's lovely to see you, and I hope you had a good time eventually when you got in. You did.
No, no. I at that point I left. I was like,
You were on a
I'm
revolving
not staying at a party where I am not allowed to
okay,
enter
good.
the VIP area. And then I thought about joining the LGBT Tories. I thought, well, maybe I will. Maybe I'll join them. And I thought, not likely now. I tell you, not likely. They have got an enemy in the media now. If only I was still in the media.
Well, we
Then
must
that
pass that we must pass that on to Albie.
Now, dear Albie saw me at the door of the VIP area and then desperately came over and said, "Oh, please, you've got to let him in." And they even said, "No, Albie, I'm sorry, no." Do you know what their response was? They said, "There are former MPs in this area." That was why they said I couldn't go. What did they think I was going to do to the former MPs? I mean, did they think I was going to, I don't know, accost Michael Gove? Was he there? I'm not sure he was. I don't know why Michael Gove would be in an LGBT party. I mean, I don't know why he was the name that came to mind. But did they think I was going to accost a former MP, do you think, Charlie? I'm not over it.
I think you would have accosted anyone, to be quite honest with you. I think it
You are
was.
quite right about that. Yes, you are quite right. I would have liked to have touched
But
anyone at that
it
point.
is an exclusive list, though. Not everybody gets on it, including former MPs. So the ones that even the ones that were there, they were very lucky to be in such company.
Yeah, well, yes, you are giving yourself a bit of a compliment there, aren't you? But anyway, so that was the last time that we actually saw each other face to face. Oh no, I think we did talk once since then, didn't we?
We did your penultimate weekend, I think.
We did. Oh, my
Which
penultimate weekend. I do. I am happy to say I'm on talk quite a lot over Christmas.
Well, I was about to say penultimate might have been a bit too early, a bit too dramatic, because I'm sure you'll be back.
Oh no, I am. I've got lots of dates booked over Christmas, so you will be thrilled to know, Charlie, that my Christmas talk sack is filling over.
Well, I'm thrilled, and I'm
And,
available. And I'm
and
available.
ready to be emptied. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you are ready to be the recipient of such Christmas joy, Charlie.
I'll be your little helper.
You could be my little elf,
I
can't you?
could. I could.
So I've been in Turkey last week because you didn't know this, but I was getting my teeth done, Charlie.
I didn't, and I think they look gorgeous. From what I can see, they look wonderful. Now, did it hurt? What did you have done to them? Was it just
I had
whitening
crowns. I
or
had crowns,
crowns?
but shall I go right up to the camera and show them?
If you desire,
I do.
yes.
I do. This is what they look like. So look, can you see them?
I can. Yes, I can see
I kept a little
teeth.
gap in them.
Ah,
And I did that because I wanted them to look realistic, and I also made them not very bright as well. Because sometimes, when you come back from with teeth from Turkey, they can be a little bit dazzling, and
mm.
I decided that would not be a particularly good look. Actually, when they first went on, I went to this amazing place called Smile Dental Turkey, and when they first go on, they're very, very bright. But the thing is, it's better to go for a brighter color because they can darken them. But if you go for a dark color, they can't lighten them. So they were very, very bright and very, very big, which is something I know you're familiar with. And so therefore, I
That's just how
decided.
I. That's just how I'm described. Very bright.
and and yeah, yes, not very bright at times though.
Yeah.
Um, and so I asked them to put a gap in them and darken them and sort of shave them down a bit. And now I feel they're quite natural looking, and I love them.
Well, I think they do look beautiful, and you've inspired. And I never thought I would say this. I think you've inspired me because I might have a little. I've always got. I was conscious as a child because I wore braces as a kid, which I think most people do these days as
Hmm.
teenagers.
I would have thought that
Um,
they were there was a lot of metal involved with those, Charlie.
well, it was quite. I mean, I'm very careful what I put in my mouth, and
Hmm.
I'm surprised that I even let that dentist, orthodontist, anywhere near them. But
I
back to the
have too.
braces. But back to the braces. And I thought that they had done enough, but what I failed to do when I post brace, you're supposed to wear a retainer, aren't you, for a certain amount of time, just to make sure that they maintain their shape. And I,
Oh, what's this? Was this when you go to sleep?
yes, yeah,
Like a mouth guard thing.
that's it. Yes, yeah,
Oh
and
yes, I'm wearing one of those
yes.
in
Well,
bed, and I keep slipping it out in the night. I wake up with it in all sorts of different places in my bed. I really do. I keep
and,
finding
and,
it in different
and what
places
about
in my bed.
and what about and what about the mouth guard?
No, it's true. So I woke up the other night and I went for a pee in the middle of the night, and I thought, I've not got my mouth guard. Then I had a terrible panic. I thought, have I swallowed it? In some of those dark,
Mm.
lonely moments, I've been known to even gnaw on a conker when I've needed to. So I was very, very concerned that I'd eaten the thing, and then I found it sort of at the foot of my bed. Clearly, I think in the middle of the night, I was like, "Ugh," and I threw it out, sort of
Mm.
out because I didn't like it. So I've got to try and keep it in because yeah, it's not very hygienic to sort of find it, at the end of the bed or on the floor or goodness knows where. It needs a rinse on under the tap after that. So,
Yes. So
but I am go on.
you spit, do you?
Yes, do you know I'm
Yes.
very salivary. Do you know that
Oh,
as
I
well?
see.
I
I see.
am. And so it's not a nice situation to
No.
find that. This is the first one. I've got a second one, which is a more brutal one, and I'm not even getting on with the first one. But because the first one is sort of the gentle one, and the second one really sort of tightens things up. So
Mm.
I'm going to I've got to move on to that one. It's going to move you over a little bit actually, because I'll keep looking to my. This is better. I can see you a bit more easily now. I'm sort of looking at the camera and at my screen. I can see you. Oh, can you hear my doggies?
No,
Oh, these
I
are good
can't.
microphones then.
Sorry.
Um,
Well, are they
no,
there with you? Are
no,
they
no,
with
they're,
you?
they're, they're, they're locked in a room downstairs. So,
What dogs have call the RSPCA.
yeah.
What dogs have you got?
You never knew I had dogs.
I didn't. No.
Oh, I've got a little Shih Tzu poodle called Dolly, and I've got to.
Hello, darling.
Yeah, well, actually, it's Dolly Parton is her name.
Oh,
And when the vet calls, I say, she says, I'm calling about Dolly. I said, no, 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 no. Who are you calling about? She says, Dolly Parton. I said, thank you. And then the other one is called Dominique Devereaux. And so we call her Dee Dee for short. And that is because Dolly is a blonde bitch.
oh yes.
And so that's why she's called Dolly Parton. And Dee Dee, well, it's quite I suppose I'm on YouTube, so can I be politically incorrect?
Sure, why not?
Oh, okay. There's an amazing character in Dynasty, in the original Dynasty, played by a wonderful actress called Diane Carroll. And that character is called Dominique Devereaux. And she's amazing. She's a black bitch. And she went up to Aaron Spelling, who produced Dynasty, at a party in 1982 and said, I want to be a black bitch in your show. And she's amazing. She goes up against Joan Collins in Dynasty, and she wears these amazing turbans, and she's just amazing. And she's my favorite character in Dynasty. So when I got a little black dog that was female, a black bitch, I thought, well, I'm going to name her Dominique Devereaux. So I did. So it's homage to Diane Carroll. And had Diane Carroll not said that herself to Aaron Spelling, I would not have done that. But she did. She said, I want to be a black bitch. Because there hadn't been a black bitch on TV at that point. And actually, she was brilliant. You should watch Dynasty. Dynasty would be quite up your street, Charlie, I think.
Do you know what, you were, as soon as you said Dynasty, I thought, oh, I've heard of it. I've heard of it. But I've never watched it. I've never seen any of it. But I will tune
How
in.
old are you, Charlie?
Well, I'm 34. I'm 34.
How have you not known Dynasty then, if you're 34?
Well, Dynasty, wasn't it in the 80s?
Yes. What year were you born?
I was born in 1990.
Well, it was still running then. 1990, dear God.
No,
Dear
I don't
God.
look it. I know it's all the stress of government and politics, I should imagine, that sort of wears you down.
Well,
But
we should say that you are a former government advisor, so you should have a lot to say about everything that we're talking about this week. So I wasn't here last week because I was in Turkey, but we should talk about Donald Trump because, of course, he has been re-elected. I know it's sort of old news, but he has been re-elected as the president. Well, re-elected from the time before last. So I don't know. Does that count as re-election? Is it re-election when you're not going for re-election directly? Is it?
I think
What
so.
is it?
Yes, yes, because he's on the ballot again, and he's been re-elected,
He's been
elected for a second
re-elected.
time.
He was re-elected. So he was elected for a second time. And I think there are two things that were really interesting because you were there, weren't you? Where were you?
I was in New York, and it was a very, very last minute decision to go.
Why did you
Um,
go?
well, there is another broadcaster who I know called Ben Leo, who
Oh, yes. I love Ben Leo.
he's very good. He's very good. He's very forthright with his views, which is always good, I think, these days in politics. And he posted on social media that he wanted to go to the States. He wanted to go to be in America for the election. He wasn't sure whether he wanted to go to Florida, where President Trump may or may not be around. So there might be an atmosphere down in Florida and Mar-a-Lago and all the rest of it, or just to go to New York, which obviously a traditional Democrat town, but it's it's a big city, and there'd be lots of all the news networks are there, and so I basically replied to Ben, and I said, "Well, take me with you," and he said, "Okay." So I ended up very very last minute because of course you've got to get an ESTA form. I forgot what ESTA
Oh, and
stands
Esther,
for.
yes.
And I applied for that on the Sunday afternoon because he then settled on going to New York. He decided he wanted to go to New York, and I said, "Great, okay, let's go." And so I applied for my ESTA form on the Sunday afternoon. Wasn't sure how long it can take up to 72 hours, and I thought, the election was on the Tuesday, and we're going to fly on the Monday, so I had a very very small window. If I didn't get it through in time, I wouldn't have gone. But it came through at about 5:30 a.m. UK time on the Monday morning, and I booked my flights at 8 a.m. on Monday for a midday flight on Monday, and we were in New York.
Were you on Ben's flight with the two of you on the same flight?
No, I had to catch a different one just because he was already sort of sorted, and I was sort of still panicking. So
You weren't sort of quaffing champagne in business class with Ben?
I wasn't, I'm afraid. No, I was in economy, which
Sorry.
I'm a man of the people, I don't you know. I'd sit in economy.
So when you get on a plane, you can turn right.
Yes, you can. Isn't that extraordinary?
Oh, I thought that was storage. In many ways,
And
it is.
most people assume that I shop in Waitrose and have business class. I mean, because I spend a lot of time by myself, as it happens. I'm single. I live by myself.
Hmm.
I actually quite enjoy going to where the masses are and to see people, and so I'm very happy for 6 hours to sit in economy, to sit next to two people or one person or whatever, and have a.
So sometimes it's the first chance you've had to talk to
Well,
anyone.
it
It's just
might be. It might well be. I mean, isn't that tragic?
oh dear, it is quite tragic.
Why do
You've
you
got
think
to
I'm
New
doing?
York,
Why do you
and
think I'm
it's a
doing
very
this on a
democratic.
Friday night?
And I'm a bit jealous, actually. I'd like an intimate few days away with Ben Leo, but probably the less said about that, the better. So you got to New York, and
Mm.
now it's a very Democrat place, because what I've noticed is, and I think the two big stories about Trump being elected, aside from cabinet picks and all those sorts of things, are the mass hysteria about it. I mean, people saying, "Oh my God, I'm going to be deported. Oh my God, he's going to come and firebomb my family," and all of these sorts of things. And actually, it's sort of these ridiculous extremes, isn't it? The Because I disagree with you, and I don't agree with everything that Trump has ever said at all, but I respect the fact that he's won the election. And because I don't agree with everything, that doesn't mean I think that he's going to sort of deport people and be crazy. But these people are sort of like, I disagree with you, so therefore that must mean that you are a terrible racist person, and I want and I think you're going to kill all my family. How do people make that jump?
So it was extraordinary, really. I mean, because we've been commentating about it for a while, and Donald Trump in general, well, for the last 8 years when he was the first president, then has been then got booted out. Biden obviously came in, but Donald Trump has never walked off the stage. He's never left the scene. And we've been talking about him for a long time. But until you're actually there talking to Americans, and you're right, New York is a very democratic supporting state. But the amount of MAGA hats and Trump fans that were actually in New York, and he made progress in New York, was just a reason why he's done as well
Why
as.
do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Because I think even in New York, and what was fascinating, particularly about New Yorkans or New Yorkies or whatever they're
New Yorkers.
New Yorkers, is that they're not afraid of having a row about anything. It seemed to me, which was a good old American business style sort of, back and forth. And I saw people really going at each other, but it was in a bizarre way. They weren't going to end up in a fight. They were just two very opinionated people with different views, and it was their right to air their view, and they're going to tell you what they thought about Donald Trump, or they were going to tell you what they thought about Kamala Harris and Biden, and what a waste of 4 years it's been. And so it's a lot of shouting. And this is where I think, obviously, we in the UK were sort of looking at it thinking, my God, how on earth can there be any or much appeal to Donald Trump if he's talking about in some of the debates about people eating their pets or doing some funny things at rallies, imitating, I think it was sucking a lollipop with a microphone stand, I think it was.
All been there.
That was one interpretation. But you've got to understand, once you're there, people know all of it. You've got to shout the loudest to be heard. And in order to get noticed, you've got to do the most extreme thing, it seems to me. And for Americans, what they understand about Donald Trump is that he could say absolutely anything. He could do his YMCA dance time after and think, nobody cares because they think that's part of the Donald Trump attention seeking. And once he's got your attention, it's when he then turns to the real issues about the economy, which everybody was feeling the pinch in America. Inflation was still high. There hadn't been much growth under the last 4 years. When under Trump, for whatever the rationale, he slashed taxes, slashed regulation. There was growth in the economy. And immigration. There is a real feel in the United States that as a country, as the most powerful nation, as it's built up to be for so many years, it is the most powerful nation in the world, has no control of its borders. That really incenses people. And so whatever Donald Trump said at his rallies and how he performed and all of the nonsense that we just think is like, barking mad, maybe, that's just to get people's attention. But when he says what he's going to do about the economy and immigration and crime, that's what really matters to Americans, more than sort of the woke softy stuff. And that's why so many people voted for him.
And what's interesting is that, well, firstly, elections are won on economy and immigration, and I think that it's always more the economy than anything else. I think, but immigration is a really big thing. But secondly, the very people that were screaming and howling and calling everyone that voted for him racist, I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but I completely understand why he cuts through to people. Completely understand. And you don't have to agree with him to understand that. However, there are some people who are so angry. Firstly, not everyone that voted for him can be racist. It's ridiculous to think that. And they don't understand that those accusations are the very reason that people are driven to him. And those people having that reaction that, my God, you care about immigration, you racist. Well, that means that people just say, if you think people are wrong to care about immigration, then debate them and come up with facts as to why they are wrong to think that. If you just call them racist, they're going to then go back to the comfort of someone like Donald Trump. And so, and then that's not to say that Donald Trump is racist, but you drive people into the arms of whom you are trying to lure them from when you just make accusations of them being racist and everything else. And we have got to learn this. We've got to get our heads around this, because it's what's created Brexit. It's what's created the divisions in politics. It's what's created Trump. It's what's created, to a point, Boris Johnson. We've got to stop all of this, because we're in real trouble otherwise. We're in real trouble. We've got to get back to the middle ground. And I don't mean politically necessarily the middle ground, but I mean the middle ground of debate, where people are able to just talk about stuff and find some middle ground that they might agree on, or respect each other's opinions, or respect that someone might have voted for him. And actually, if you disagree with them respectfully. And that is what has completely gone out the window with that result.
Totally, because as you were saying, whatever you think about Donald Trump, he has been a voice for people, who haven't been able to have that voice, or feel as though they've not been able to talk about things that they want to talk about, like immigration, because they're just going to be saddled as a racist or fascist or anything like that. But what's really interesting about this election is the way in which, you're hearing particularly American broadcasters, they sort of say, the reason why Donald Trump did so well, he did very well with the Black community, with Hispanics, with Latinos, with women, and because the way the campaign was run, it was almost as if, take the issue of abortion, for example, which is something that is very big in America at the minute. Individual states have different sort of laws, and it's the Roe v. Wade sort of case that sort of it's a legal thing in America about sort of women's rights, and at which point you can, if you decide to have an abortion, you can and choose to do so. But without getting into that particular issue, it became such a surprise to people on the left that Trump had done better with women, and progressed in terms of his vote with women, when he didn't have, excuse me, considered by female commentators in particular, but just commentators in general, he didn't have a stronger position about it as the Democrats, but they couldn't understand that. And similarly, they couldn't understand why Latinos or Black Americans had voted for Donald Trump, because he'd said there was this joke at one of his rallies about Puerto Ricans. People couldn't work it out, because people particularly on the left, and particularly left-wing commentators, couldn't understand that if you're a woman, okay, abortion is a particularly emotive and personal topic. It's about you as a woman, your body. But that doesn't mean to say a woman, if you're in a traditional American setting, by the way, family, doesn't care about the economy. Of course they care about the economy. They want to make sure that their family has got the bread on the table and their husband can go out and work if they say they're in that traditional American sort of family setting, and that their kids aren't going to be victims of crime if crime's gone up in your area. If you're Hispanic or if you're black, you care about the economy just as much as anyone else. But it was just so surprising
But
that it was all based on single issue politics on the left. And they couldn't understand that everybody in the country was worried about the economy, about crime, and immigration. That's why so many people voted for Trump.
I tell you, it's got real. There's real mirroring, I think, when it comes to Kemi Badenoch here as well. In as much as that it's actually the very prejudice that people claim that they want to eradicate. This idea that you have to vote with your minority or with your people, and that you can't stray from the opinion that you are expected to have from whatever caste you might be a part of. And so Kemi Badenoch is a black woman that has different opinions to a lot of people, not all, but a lot of people who are sort of campaigners or activists within the black community and racism. And there are a lot of people that are just saying, well, you can't celebrate her being a black woman who's the leader of a major political party because she's not the right black woman. You can't. They can't get their heads around women. Perhaps there are some women who agree that abortion should be curtailed, but there are some people that can't get their head around that, and it's a form of prejudice, because you're saying, well, actually, you have to have these set of opinions because of what you are. And if the shoe was on the other foot, if you were to say to someone, you can't think like that because you're Latino, that would be completely a form of prejudice. But when it comes to them thinking the wrong way, when it comes to them thinking perhaps in a more right-wing way, people seem to think that it's acceptable to then actually call out their ethnicity or their sexual orientation or something else as a reason why they're wrong. And it's so strange. It's so hypocritical, and it's actually really naive because people have a broad range of opinions, as you say, and people also sometimes go against the grain that you would expect with some of their opinions. Look at the gay Tories. I mean, well, if you did look at the gay Tories, you'd be looking at very little else. There are so many of them.
Yeah.
But there are many people that actually say that about. Or I used to get it on my show a lot. I'd always have like a moment praising Thatcher. And some people would message me going, I don't understand how you can like her. How can you like Margaret Thatcher with what she did to the gays? And, Section 28 and all those things. And I don't particularly like that part of her legacy, but her legacy is bigger than that. It was a legacy that was relevant to the era in which she was Prime Minister. It was wrong, but actually I'm able to see more than that because, people are more than one policy. But people can't get their head around it. Can't get their head around it.
No, you're absolutely right, and context is everything, and people will maybe look back and think, "Why, goodness me, why did the Americans go for Trump once, but why on earth did they go for him twice?" Because there's context to the history of where America is in terms of its place in the world today.
Okay, now I'm looking on X, by the way. Now, do you know why? Because I put out a message when I knew we were recording this tonight, Charlie. Where are you? I've lost you now. I'm on my laptop here. This is my laptop. And I put out a tweet. It's still a tweet, isn't it? I'm calling it a tweet.
Yes.
Saying, I'm just about to record another Putting the World Right, this time with Charlie Rowley. What would you like me to talk about? So shall I have a look at some of the answers? Or I will look at some of the answers in a minute, because I just want to finish up talking about Trump, because I think it's important before we look at some of those answers to talk about what our government has had to do in terms of backtracking when it comes to oh, you've frozen, Charlie. Oh no, you haven't frozen. You're just deep in thought.
Sorry.
I've never seen you so pensive.
Yes.
We have to talk about some of the backtracking from some of our political figures.
Well, yes, yes.
Because I mean, I find this absolutely hilarious. So, should we play a game of before the election and after the election when it comes to some of our esteemed leaders? So, David Lammy, of course, Foreign Secretary, right? And this is what he had to say about Donald Trump before the election: deluded, dishonest, xenophobic, narcissistic. Donald Trump is no friend of Britain. He is not fit to hold public office, let alone worthy of our country's highest honours and a banquet with the Queen. Theresa May, because this is 2017 when this was sent, is selling out the UK to a serial liar and a cheat. Hashtag Trump UK visit. In response to Donald Trump sending out a tweet saying "Make America Great Again," he retweeted that and said, Hitler said the same about Germany in a speech in February 1940, because, you know, nothing gathers the troops together more than a Hitler reference. In fact, he said it on numerous occasions. It was one of the underlying imperatives of his political movement. It was cover for the most detestable human acts. We see you, Mr. Trump. And he also said, read the Daily Mail story today. Yes, if Trump comes to the UK, I will be out protesting on the streets. He is a racist KKK and Nazi sympathizer. So you've got racist, Ku Klux Klan, Nazi sympathizer, Hitler, narcissistic, xenophobic, deluded, dishonest. That's the list of what David Lammy accused Donald Trump of until the day of the election, after the election. Congratulations, Donald Trump, on your victory. The UK has no greater friend than the US, with the special relationship being cherished on both sides of the Atlantic for more than 80 years. We look forward to working with you and JD Vance in the years ahead. I mean, what a moron. What a coward. I mean, at least I would have more respect if he said, you know what, I'm foreign secretary and I can't stand him. But what a cowardly, slimy U-turn. Do you want, and it really goes to show that when you're in opposition, you just have to say what you like and throw everything at the wall, and you're like an activist. And then when you're in government, you have to kind of go, oh God, I'm an adult now. Oh God, I can't soil myself and expect someone to clean it up. I've got to come out my nappy now and actually be a proper statesman. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And look, there's a difference, a huge difference when you're, as you say, in opposition. You're just a political party. You're just a campaign organization, basically. There's a huge difference between being a campaigner in opposition and the governing party in a position of power. And he's obviously had to. You're right, actually. I think that when something is so brazen, and you can hear the screeching U-turn still from that tweet today. You might
I
as
mean,
well
does
have
he
just
think we're
said,
stupid?
hmm?
Does he think we're stupid? Sorry, I'm having another drink now because
Yes,
that's really
yes.
brought.
Well, he must, because I mean, social media it's on your record. It's there for a long time. It's not just a thought that you just sort of, you can just go away once you've tweeted it. It's on your profile, and
Oh,
I think it is. He probably would have been better off to say, we must learn the American people have spoken. I'm maybe things have changed or the country's moved on, the country's in a different place. We will work with Donald Trump, and that's it. But not
or I respect the result of the election, and maybe I was too quick to judge before and spoke a little
yes,
out of turn because I look
yes.
forward. I mean, do you think he could have done that, or do you think that? I don't know what I want more. Do I want politicians that gaslight us? Because that's gaslighting. It's gaslighting. He's basically acting like we wouldn't know that he said something different before. So do we want that, or would we want the humility of him saying, look, I shouldn't have said that. We were in opposition at the time. And now, I'm going to have to perhaps try and work with him. But would us, the media, mean that he would never get away with that? Would the media then tear him to shreds because it's a U-turn?
Yeah, I think in situations like that, when you've been so public and so direct about your views, but then the question is, uh, will the real David Lammy, please stand up? Was he being too uh, um, uh, derogatory about Donald Trump in that tweet? Did he really think that in the first place? Which
No,
again,
he's just playing to the crowd because I mean, what we've learned now from this is that David Lammy has no opinion on anything.
yes,
He
yes,
is the Boris Johnson of Tottenham, in as much as he will just say whatever the crowd in front of him deems is appropriate to be said. And
mm,
that is ridiculous.
yes,
Let's do another one. Sadiq Khan, literally days before the election. This isn't going back to 2017, although there is a lot from that visit where Sadiq Khan criticized him. Days before the election, he told the High Performance podcast Trump's policies were sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, and racist. He said that his Islamic faith and skin color were the reason Trump decided to come for me, right? Which is always Sadiq Khan's sort of response to any criticism, is that it must be sort of some sort of form of racism, when in actual fact, I think a lot of people just dislike him for many, many reasons, and it's nothing to do with his skin color, right? Literally days later on LBC a couple of days ago, he said that he was
mm,
putting out the hand of friendship to Donald Trump. He said, firstly, it's really important I say this because I abide by the rules of the game, he said. Donald Trump has won the election. He's going to be president in January. I wish him well. I congratulate him on winning the election. And as I said, he's putting out the hand of friendship. So we either have to conclude that again, he's either putting out the hand of friendship to someone who he considers sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, and racist, in which case, Sadiq Khan, you have a very, very strange threshold for your friends, or he didn't believe any of that stuff about them being
mm,
sexist, homophobic, Islamophobic, and racist. It was just playing to the crowd. Either way, it's just such frustrating hypocrisy.
mm. And I think that is absolutely true. The only thing I would say is whether um, which I'm not going to try and justify or defend people like David Lammy or Steve Carr, because I think you're absolutely right that it's ridiculous to put that out and try and backtrack in the way that they have, and it's embarrassing, frankly. Um, but there is I mean, it's a total lack of judgment on their part if it is the case what I'm about to say, which is that have they tried to play Donald Trump at his own game, which would be a disaster because you can't out Trump Donald Trump. You have to be authentic. And what people know about Donald,
But I tell you what it is, Charlie. It's top trumps.
it's top Trumps. It's top. There you go. There you go. I think we
But
should.
yes, what you think? You think that they're sort of trying to do a Trump in as much as they'll say something outrageous, hoping it sticks, and then hoping that people forget that outrageous thing and say something else.
I think that, yeah, I think so. I think they're trying to just, because Donald Trump will go up and say the most, ludicrous thing about his opponents. But after the election is done, or once, so even if it was just Donald Trump at the primaries, he would, or debating other Republicans, even the first time, he would be, and even to Hillary Clinton during that election, and Joe and Sleepy Joe, he will say all kinds of things. He doesn't really believe it, but that's because Donald Trump as a persona, as an entertainer previously before coming into politics, as well as a businessman, that people know that that's his shtick, if I can put it like that,
Yeah.
because they know he will say the most extreme thing, and that's part of his appeal. What's he going to say next? What's he going to accuse about so and so or whatever? And that's if you're not of that mold, if that's not your way of doing politics, then don't bother trying. And if David Lammy and Sadiq Khan have tried to play Donald Trump and put their own game by saying all of this stuff just to hope that the mud will stick and then retreat and say, okay, you've won. So now we'll do business.
I'm sick of gaslighting politics. It's gaslighting politics.
Yes.
We are being gaslit, and it's quite frustrating. All right, we
Mm,
will return to
mm,
that story another day, I am
mm,
sure. But I want to talk about Narinda.
mm,
Now, Narinder Kaur is someone who used to come on my talk TV show, and I've had some concerns about Narinda for a while. I like her. I personally really like her. but we would rarely get more criticism about a guest than when we had Narinda on, when it came to texts and tweets and the like, because people hated what she had to say. There are a few others that were similar as well, but Narinda used to get an awful lot of shtick. And it's because she's very loud. It's because she talks over people a lot. It's because she is, I think, a lot of people disagree with her opinions. But recently she seems to, and I've had conversations privately with people about this, where she seems to have been in the last few months trying to really push the envelope when it comes to her social media and her opinions, and going more and more outrageous when it comes to her social media and her opinions. And I've had conversations with people about this where she seems to have kind of lost the plot a little bit. And I say that with love because I really like her. And then recently this week, it came back to bite her on the bum, because she said in a tweet, after the Princess of Wales, Catherine Middleton, Princess Catherine, was watching on at the cenotaph, and she had tears in her eyes and was looking very, very emotional. And I suppose with what she's been through over the last year, something like a remembrance ceremony will bring up all sorts of emotions, and the ceremony itself is very emotional, for obvious reasons. Narinda sent a tweet retweeting a picture of Princess Catherine saying, "Genuine question, why has Kate aged so much? Isn't she only 42? Is she a smoker? It's the only explanation." And it was a tweet too far, because she has found herself in a situation where she has been absolutely pilloried on social media. She's made all of the newspapers. She's been dropped from TV shows that she was due to appear on. And the apologies that she has given have just not cut the mustard. I mean, what do you think of that? Firstly, do you think that Narinda genuinely thinks that Princess Catherine looks old, or do you think it was another attempt at what she seems to do lately, which is trolling? And do we need to proceed with caution? Because, like me, I presume, though I don't know, you are also someone who isn't massively fond on sort of cancelling people when they make a mistake. And so do we need to proceed with caution in berating her so much?
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there. You know,
Plus, did you believe she believes it?
yes, I do. Otherwise, I don't think she would have said it. And you know, I think she's totally wrong, and I think that's the overwhelming majority of people would think that. But even if she did think it, well, in fact, I think she did think it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said it. There might be other people that think it too. Let's just assume that for a second. Um, if that's your opinion, that's your opinion. I disagree with it. I don't think it was right to tweet it. Certainly not. I don't know why it would enter anybody who is in. You know, there's a huge difference if you're sitting at home watching the telly, watching Remembrance, and if for whatever reason you're not watching Remembrance for whatever it's for what it's meant to be for, but you sort of glance at someone that comes into shot and even think momentarily, oh, they look a bit different, or they look, oh, it looks a bit old, or what. Um, uh, you know, you're allowed that view, but there's a big difference between somebody who is sitting at home and someone that is making a career with actually, you know, going on TV, despite what people think, you know, comes with its responsibilities. You do have a voice, you do acquire a following, and you've got to be careful what you say. You've got to think about what you say. And I think this is where maybe Narinda sometimes says what she thinks, but doesn't think about what she's going to say. And
Yeah.
I think,
And also just to jump in,
yes,
intent, because I think sometimes it is fair to maybe say, oh God, Princess Catherine doesn't look well. You know, she's looking tired. She's looking, I don't know, old. I mean, I'm not saying I think that, but I
Mm.
suppose if you were to say that and it was, I hope she's all right, and I hope that looks like maybe some of the treatment's taken its toll, and I hope she gets a rest and looks after herself. That's that's a different intent to, oh my God, she looks old. Is she a smoker? Do you see what I
Yeah,
mean? And
totally, totally. And the question just, I mean, again, let's just try and take a step back and ask ourselves, okay, what, why ask the question? Is she, the thing about the smoking bit is, a, well, there are two things. So ask, why ask, is she a smoker? A, none of your business. Who cares? What if she was? It's not a it's not it is a bizarre thing to ask or say or think, but what is obviously so damaging about it is obviously that she has just come through cancer treatment, and we know how
it's
much
insane.
smoking is linked to cancer, and it was totally ill judged, not thought, not even ill thought, it just not wasn't thought about. And I just go back to the, because I've done a show with Narinda. I think we were on the Jeremy Vine as panelists, and as the sort of show went on, I couldn't work out whether, certain people you can judge quite quickly, and I don't say that you judge because okay, they're going to be on the hard left. So what am I going to say today? Not to you don't say anything that you don't mean. You should never go on and say anything that you don't mean because you'd always
I
get
agree.
found out. But you kind of know, okay, if they're going to be so outrageously politically left wing, I know that I will just need to prepare maybe some more political points to rebut that, rather than I know it's going to be more of a political debate rather than a considerate conversation. So you just work out with some, and as the show went on with Narinda, I just thought this is a little bit sort of she's very entertaining, very friendly to me. I have nothing against the
Oh, she's
person.
lovely. She's a
Lovely.
lovely
Um,
girl. I really
mm.
like her, and I know a lot of people never could understand that I liked her. But you're right. But you found that a bit of a challenge, did you?
Well, I just found it's very difficult sometimes. I mean, I was look, the best example I have, working for well, there are two things. Sorry, this might go on a bit, but the two things that I would say is that I've had the immense privilege of working for Michael Gove, who, whatever you think about his policies or his politics or him as a person, his ability to debate and his ability to be an operator, to understand, what you need, the tools. You might hate what he says, but you hate him because you think he's actually secretly quite good, or winning the argument, or getting one over the opposition, or this man is whatever you think. But he would always say to us as a team, it's facts, facts, facts. Get your facts, and then you can build basically any narrative if you wanted around that. And the one thing that, even from the get go, I think being with Narinda, there was no facts at all. I think
Yeah.
it was quite a sensitive topic that we were talking about. It was about, I think there was a question about, do you bring uh, um, airport style security, you know, uh, turnstile thingies into schools to sort of riddle out knives, and which I disagreed with, because I knew there'd been an attack at a school. But anyway, the detail that, what Narinda was putting forward was just, it wasn't factually correct. It was a different. I don't know what she was talking about, basically. So it's hard to then debate that or counter that, until obviously a caller came in and said, or it was corrected, and we moved on. But so it was difficult from that perspective. But also, I, I worry about Narinda and people like Narinda, because, as you say, it's about, these days, for a lot of people, and I don't know Narinda's background, so this is maybe where I don't have the facts, and I'm happy to have that pointed out to me. But if you've got a second career, or if you've got something else going on, I think it's a lot easier, and you become slightly more relaxed. I don't obsess about social media. My career was in politics. I was a special advisor. I've worked in government departments. I've worked on policy press. You're thinking about, being on telly for me isn't the, I love it. I think it's great. It's nice to have a voice. It's nice to be still in politics in that way. But it isn't I never went to bed dreaming, I want to be on the telly. I want to be famous. I want more clicks. I want followers. I want a profile. I want to be in the media. I'm perfectly happy turning up when I need to offer a conversation about a debate. Hopefully it's mildly entertaining, but I'm also happy to go home and work on other things. And you see, media and TV and radio is I love it. It's enjoyable, but it's not my
Be all and end all. Be all
be
and
all
end
and
all.
end all. And I think if you are described as a political commentator, and there are lots of them out there, who have never worked in politics that actually don't have that assurance. I'm always assured, and that might sound a bit arrogant, but I'm always assured when I maybe pop on to have conversations, because I've got experience in some of those areas that we're talking about. I might not be right, and I might not have the answers, but it always comes from a place of I can feel, or I can understand, or I can try and work out why that will be wrong, or why that wouldn't work, or why this has been a terrible comms crisis here, or why government isn't going to succeed there, or why there's been such a backlash to public. Because I've been there, and I've sort of been in the oil machine of working. If you've got nothing, if you're just opinionated, well, everyone's got an opinion, but how do you gain followers? How do you get more bookings? How do you
by
build
pushing
your
the envelope more and
how
more and
push-
more, by pushing it and trying to become more outrageous. You're right, and in so my opinions are based on, well, years of phone-in radio, actually,
Mm,
which was the best education I ever had. I swear to God, it really was. Doing overnight shows, doing late night shows, doing shows where it's just me and callers, but also being a buy-to-let landlord, also having a business background from that point of view, and being a journalist. And
yes. Yeah.
and so that's where I have come to where I have come to. And I don't say things for clicks, but also I'm very conscious, as are you, as are all of us, that when you are appearing on things like the Jeremy Vine show or various other, you are also making a show.
Mm,
And the audience need a bit of red meat, because otherwise it's a very boring show. And so I, whenever I'm being booked for those sorts of shows, I actually ask for them to talk to the other panelists first, and I sort of put my producer head on a bit when they call me, and I say, right, okay, we're not going to agree on that, but if you do this question, we'll disagree, because I know they're looking for a piece of disagreement, and I know they're looking for some respectful disagreement, but they need to make a show, and a show is a
mm,
show. If we all sat there and agreed on everything, it would be very, very dull to watch. And also, the whole point is that you're hopefully going to have someone watching and maybe make them think a bit differently about something. What I feel Narinda has done in the last year or two, and she's not here to defend herself, so I'm going to say again, she's a really, really lovely girl, and I really like her. But I feel like in the last year or two, on social media especially, she's been a bit clickbait. And I'll tell you why. So she was on a show that I was presenting, which was for breakfast. It was breakfast on Talk I was presenting. And she came on as one of the reviewers or something like that. And she hadn't asked about the fee beforehand. And wrongly afterwards, and she was on with Dr. Rene. You know, Dr. Rene was
I do.
on
Yes,
this.
yes, yes. Very
She's going to
much.
come on one of these at some point. And so she was on with her, and the argument continued on social media afterwards, because they were sort of really at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And Narinda hadn't asked for a fee beforehand. But she did the thing and then asked for a fee afterwards. And the producer, who was not a regular producer at the time, said, "Oh, well, you didn't ask for a fee beforehand, so I'm afraid there's no fee." Wrongly. I think that was wrong. And she didn't get in touch with me as the presenter. I got a bit of swing, and she didn't get in touch with me and say, "Oh, look, you know what? They've said they're not going to pay me anything." In which case, I would have messaged the producer going, "You've got to give her a fee." She didn't ask beforehand, and it's a lesson learned. You always ask what the fee is, always, because sometimes you do get caught with your pants down.
Mm-hmm.
And her and Rene then continued the argument online, and Narinda suddenly pulled out saying, "Well, you tried not to pay me a fee today for the show. Um, isn't it interesting? The only person who wasn't getting paid today was the brown person." It was nothing to do with that. And it really irritated me,
Mm,
because firstly, it's a show I'm presenting. I'm the one in the chair, and you're now suggesting that actually I'm presiding over a show that is racist when it comes to paying you. That is not the case. It is
mm,
not the case at all. So it really irritated me. And also, that's the kind of thing that's not going to get you booked again.
mm,
I wanted her for a late night show, and I was still trying to use her. I was trying to help her. And I was going to get her on to talk about a topic, and we called her, and she actually did the right thing. We called her, and she said, "What's the fee?" And then she couldn't do it, didn't come on, which is fine. But then she retweeted, like a couple of weeks later, the talk schedule, including myself. Talk used to sort of put out. And she said, "Oh, this is a lineup that Hitler would be proud of, or the Nazis would be proud of, something like that." And so I got sick of it, and I retweeted her again, saying, "Sorry, but it's funny when we called to ask you on the other day, oh no," and then I think someone replied to her going, "Oh, you're on all the time. Why are you saying that?" She replied, "I wouldn't go on there." And I replied saying, "Well, actually, when we asked you the other day, the first question that you had was about the fee." Now that wasn't a dig about her asking for a fee. Of course you should ask for a fee. It was a dig about the fact that, oh God, you clearly don't mind about this horrific Nazi Hitler racist station if there's a fee involved. And I
Yes.
just felt like, and she's been doing that a lot lately with every single thing she gets, every single piece of criticism she gets. Even her apology over Princess Catherine was, okay, I did something wrong and I was absolutely awful, but look at the racism I've got. I'm the victim here. And it's like, you've got to stop. And I feel like she's crossed the line between becoming a provocateur and almost a professional troll. And she's going, by being the latter, you're going to lose work. And I think she's almost cancelling herself. And I think you also, in these situations, you get a chance for an apology. And I really endorse people being able to apologize or say that they rethought what they said. And I think she really, respectfully, with love to her, she really screwed that up by being like, "Oh, you know what? Look at the racism I've got. Look at the misogyny I've got. Oh my God, you're having a go at a brown woman having an opinion." No, it's not that. You've just said something vile. You know what? Just own it, say you're sorry, and say that the criticism is fair. And some of it's awful, but it's fair. And that's where she screwed up. And I think she might end up cancelling herself.
I think you're absolutely right, and I couldn't put it any better. But it just the only thing I would just say, it just goes back to again that sort of self assurance. Nobody's overly. I mean, you've got to be confident to go on and say things and say what you think, but you can't be arrogant about it. And your assurance comes from when you ask the difficult questions and when there are difficult topics and you ask challenging questions of people in society. That's because of your training as a journalist. I'm assured if I've got an opinion, and I could be absolutely vilified and pilloried by having an opinion that's unpopular, whether it might be about immigration or it might be about the economy, it might be about an assessment on the Labour government, and I could be absolutely, trolled no end. But I would be assured because I know it comes from a position of experience and being there, but also, so you're right in terms of an apology, but it can go one or two ways. You either double down because you're assured of your opinions and your beliefs, and it's right, or well, it's an opinion, but it's one that many people will either agree with. But if you are cataclysmically wrong and you've just ill judged something, I mean, again, there's looks are objective, right? I don't think Kate looks old. I think she looks beautiful, and I think she has for many years and will do for many years to come. There will be people out there that might think, like Narinda, that she's aged. That is, I don't agree, but perfectly legitimate opinion to have. She could have doubled down on it if she wanted to, but I think it was the ridiculousness of it. Just asking, "Is this related to smoking?" Given the health impacts, it was just totally. So that is where you're absolutely right. She probably should have said, "Look, I shouldn't have commented about looks. I shouldn't have tried to justify it. It was an opinion that was just ill thought, ill judged. Sorry, move on." Or double down, double down on it, and let's see where that would have got you. But it's this backtracking, half-hearted apology. I'm the victim. Why is everybody piling onto me? And I think yes, there is obviously you share your own experiences if you're apologizing. So I know she opened up about her brother having cancer, which is why she was trying to justify that she wasn't attacking Kate for having cancer, obviously, and connecting that to smoking.
But she's just had cancer. You don't criticize the
Exactly.
looks of a person who's just had cancer who might look a bit tired.
Exactly.
You know
Yes.
what I mean? No, I would imagine you probably would. I think she looks fantastic for someone. And also, as well, it's one photo taken at a certain angle, probably in the dark. It is, but I think it was that desire to
Yeah.
just to sort of thoughtlessly troll. And I think that she's got to review what she's doing there, because she never used to be like that so much. And my advice to her, again with love, because
Mm.
I think that she's actually a really sweet soul, um, is that she's got to think about that, and I hope that she's able to sort of reflect on that. Now, a lot of people, I remember I said earlier that I was going to go on Twitter and say what people are asking us to talk about.
Mm.
Dog race,
Yes. The what?
dog racism.
S- Say that one more time, sir. I think I.
Dog, woof woof,
Yeah.
racism, you're terrible because of your skin color. Dog racism.
What's that?
This is the story of the Welsh government. Um, I mean, that made you laugh, even me just saying the Welsh
Yes,
government.
yes.
The Welsh government have suggested, from what I understand, that the areas of the countryside are made dog free because the presence of dogs, some cultures don't like it when they're in the countryside. And in order to make the countryside less racist, we need to have fewer dogs in certain places of the countryside in order to reduce the countryside racism.
Mm. You still lost me.
Racist, racist. You're a racist.
Well, extraordinary. Does the Welsh government have that much time on their hands? I would have thought they'd be trying to get the waiting list down in NH because it's
No, but also, on a serious note, we're a nation of dog lovers. I mean,
yes.
are there some things that are sacrosanct that we say, well, you know what? Part of our nation is to be a dog lover. So that trumps people who are uncomfortable around dogs. Or is that wrong to say that?
No, no, no. I think you can't, we don't live in a. I mean, trying to be balanced, but we don't live in a perfect world. I mean, if you don't like dogs, okay, that's dog owners have to be responsible and look after them and make sure that they're not sort of running all over the place, and particularly around people. But you've got to accept if you go outside and you're going to see somebody walking a dog. If you go to the park, they're going to be walking their dog. It's just part of our happy life. But we've come full circle because I've been thinking about getting a dog.
Have you?
I have, and
You
I've
have to
been
get
looking.
rescue. If you don't get rescue, I'll be really upset with you.
Well, I was looking at that. I have looked at that. That can be quite complex at times.
No, if you get a puppy, I think sometimes an older rescue can be a bit complex, but not always. And I don't want to tar older rescues
Hmm.
at
I no,
all.
but I
My
would.
my two are rescues. Do you want me to go and get my dogs?
I would love. Yes, go on. I'd love to see DD and
Well,
DP.
will you talk for a bit? Because it's going to be very boring otherwise.
I will. Well, I'll tell you whilst you go
Broadcaster.
get them. I'll tell your viewers, both of them, what, and that doesn't include me. I've been thinking about getting a dog because I mentioned earlier on I live by myself and I've got a lot of time on my hands, and I know that's not an excuse for me. I want to own a dog, and I think I've got the time and the responsibility and the flexibility to obviously look after it well. And I've been looking, searching high and low, and I think I thought about a small dog to begin with, maybe a Jack Russell was my first thought, but they're quite active and need a lot of. Oh, look at this! Now,
Baby,
is this
this is my
Dolly?
little Dee Dee.
Dee Dee.
Hello,
Oh,
Dee Dee. You're such
gorgeous.
a good girl, aren't you, eh? They've had a bath, so they've not been very happy. Uh,
Oh,
but she's a good girl, isn't she? Look at this little doggy. And
but
look at her big paws.
how often do you have to groom Dee Dee then? She's got quite a coat.
Yeah, quite often have to brush her, keep her well groomed, bath her every couple of weeks as well, because they get a bit stinky, and I don't like a stinky dog.
Mm.
Um, but she's a good girl, and she's a rescue.
Oh,
She came from Cyprus, and I brought her over, so she's a very good girl. And you, she's a good girl. Do you want me to get
she's
Dolly?
lovely.
That's Dee Dee.
Dee
Doll,
Dee.
Dolly, give me baby. Give me my little baby. You come here. Come on. Let's get you up here. Oh, got ya.
Oh, she was.
Oh, it's Doll. It's
Oh.
Doll. They both are. Yeah, she's a good girl.
Oh, beautiful.
Aren't they good?
Oh, they're lovely.
You see, so
Oh,
rescues. Get a rescue.
Are they related? Are they sisters or are they?
No, they met in the crate coming over from. They were. Oh, don't growl at each other. Don't growl at each other. Be your best friends. Stop it. So they met in the crate coming over from Cyprus. Saving Pound Dogs Cyprus is an amazing charity, and
Okay.
there's a poodle strain in Cyprus, so you can get sort of poodly dogs, and they are beautiful and lovely and
Well,
adorable.
I was looking at either sort of I'd seen online, and there's some there are some sort of I'm not I wasn't funny enough. I'm not obsessed about getting a puppy. I know lots of people, if they want a dog, they want a puppy because it's cute and cuddly and all the rest. But I'm actually very happy to take an older dog because just I would like to give it a home and look
And you
after.
have a lot in common with it.
I I do you prefer DD or DP?
Um, that's a question I've not been asked on a Friday night since last week. Um,
Since
do
you
I like both equally well. I love DD and I love DP.
oh
I really do. It depends. I never waver between the two. I like them both equally.
well, they can't hear you. They can't hear you.
I couldn't say.
They get um,
So
I thought a Jack Russell or sort of a Staffy, it's a
I hate
smaller.
Jack Russells. The
Oh
only
no.
dog breed I can't stand is Jack Russells. I mean, again, I don't want anyone to be horrible to a Jack Russell, but I hate Jack Russells. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. They're so yappy and little and but a lot of people love them, and I understand that. And at least they're not a cat, which are, of course, evil.
Oh, I love cats. Don't let
I
Peter
hate.
Cardwell hear you say that.
Oh yes, cat of the week. We all we all enjoyed that particular feature weekly. I actually love Peter Cardwell so much, and he's been incredibly kind to me. But cat of the week had to go. It
Yeah.
really cat of the week had to go. All right, so we've got to fly through a few more topics now because we've.
Sorry.
So what do you want to do? The hate non-hate stuff or 4 day a week? You'd have one of those, Charlie. Which one would you like to do?
Well, oh gosh. Well, both are quite mad, aren't they?
All right. Well, you could do both, but very quickly because I'm running
I
out
mean,
of booze.
the 4 day week stuff is the idea that people should work 4 days instead of five and still have 5 days worth of pay. I think is nobody would accept that. I'm all for flexi working. Actually, I'm a bit more modern, I think, than some.
You're a very flexible person, aren't you?
Well, I'm flexible. I'm very versatile.
You are very.
Um,
Do you know what? I knew that about you when I first met you. I knew you were. I knew you were.
It's what they'd written on the toilet walls, wasn't it?
I think it's written on a profile I read of yours actually somewhere. I think it's probably your LinkedIn.
Well, that's fake news. But I think
Is it?
working a 4 day week. I'm not on LinkedIn. I'm on very little social media. Um, I like to. I always think I'm going to bump into someone.
Oh,
I'm
you.
going to meet my match in Tesco in aisle 5 or something.
I
Both
think
just
you have
reaching
an
for the
air of
last pint of
mystique
milk.
around you, don't you? You're an
I might meet
enigma.
someone at the bus stop. Well, I like the old-fashioned way. I like, maybe talking to someone at the bus stop or when your eyes meet across the room in a dance or a disco or something like that.
Also, the steam of the sauna fades and your eyes meet. Is that what you're saying?
Not quite like that, but
Oh,
similar.
I know.
I'm just
I was talking about whether you were in the gym or something. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
what
well,
kind of.
yes, yes.
Have you ever been to a gay sauna?
N not kno not not
You didn't
knowing
expect to be asked that question, did you?
not knowingly, I don't think. I've been to many places. I've been to gyms and I've been to saunas.
But you've never been. You've been to gay bars, you've been to gyms, and you've been to saunas, but you've never had all three combined.
And in Germany. So I
Oh,
did
and you've been to Germany
well,
too.
actually, I've been to Cologne. I've tried to go to Berlin 3 times, and I've never actually made it for different reasons. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Oh,
The 4 day week.
yes. Well, I think of all the time you'd have to spend in saunas if you weren't at work
Well,
for
but
7 days.
I don't want to go. So I want to work. I like working, and I like and
You
I
don't.
don't. I like the idea. I don't mind. I don't accept. So post COVID, I think we really do have to have a bit of a shake up and rethink about things. So I don't like the idea that people still at 6 a.m., 6:30 are crammed onto these packed commuter trains and only pay for the privilege of standing up, which I think is bonkers. I think you can shift times a bit, so you don't all have to start at 8:30 or 9. Some people can come in at 10 or 11, just work a bit later if they want to do that. I do think it's okay, so long
Yeah,
as kind of
as long as it's linked to productivity.
yes,
I'm
exactly.
actually, I don't think work from home the whole time is a
No,
good thing. But I think that if you need to do a day or two at home and the productivity of the business which is monitored does not suffer, I'm not against that at
no.
all. I think if the in some cases the productivity might go up. But this was just about public sector stuff as well, civil service, wasn't it?
Totally, totally. And it wasn't even saying that you're going to condense your 5 days into four and keep it was basically saying, no, no, just 1 day less for the same amount of pay, just because people want an extra day off for well-being reasons and all the rest of it. And I think that's just ridiculous because that screams to me, uh, the people that are thinking this up, how two-tiered your life must be. You're clearly a middle manager that just works behind a desk that wants to be at home most of the time. What about if you're a plumber or electrician, or if you're delivering goods around you can't just decide to have a day off. People are
No,
working
because those
7 days a
people
week
are
as it
not.
is.
And there's a really there seems to be at the moment this idea that if you are that person that is self-employed, that is going about your business that way, that you are a millionaire and that you can afford all.
Mm,
Whereas if you're public sector, you need to be looked after a little bit more. And I understand that there have been few public sector pay rises in the last few years, and so I think most people in the last election thought, well, you know what, the public sector deserves a bit of a pay rise, deserves something, but it seems to be going completely the other way at the moment, and I
mm.
think that it doesn't seem to have a lot of logic to it. Now, what was the other one that you wanted to talk about?
The non-hate
So, what
crimes.
is this story? Are you talking about Alison Pearson?
I am, but it relates to so she's obviously kicked off the topic because she's had three, I understand, three police forces. Three, I mean, goodness knows what they're all doing. But she's had three police
So
forces.
they've turned up at her door and said that they needed to question her about a non-hate incident, a non-crime incident, whatever this might be, because of a tweet she might have sent a couple of years ago that they couldn't tell her what the tweet was. Um,
Exactly.
so I
Nor
actually heard very interesting, a really interesting phone in about this. Um, and it was from someone who worked in the police. And what they were saying was that the reason these non-crime hate incidents exist is because the system that they use can't discriminate between the severity of things, firstly,
mm,
when it comes to something being logged. But secondly, it comes from a lot of people who might want to report something. And let's talk about schools, for instance, because there was a story as well about schools reporting these sorts of things. And a school might have an incident in that school, and the school doesn't investigate it properly enough. So the parents then go to the police and say, well, look, I don't think that this was investigated enough. It was something that happened at the school, a hate incident that I considered that happened at the school. It wasn't investigated enough. The police needed a category by which they could say that that it existed, but because it wasn't a crime, they couldn't have it as a crime. But because the system can't discriminate about the severity of these things, but also it meant that it couldn't be dismissed. And so that's sort of one of the reasons why this has ended up happening. But in my mind, if something's not a crime, it's not a crime. It's
mm.
just a crime.
Yes. No, that's absolutely right. And I think, look, the police should investigate things, even if it's unknown, because there's you don't know the context of something written down sometimes, and you don't know whether that escalates into something that could become a crime. So it's all you've got to step in to prevent crime as much as it can, as much as you should go and catch the.
But it also said, sorry to jump in, but also I'm just remembering the call. He said as well that the other reason that they were introduced was because the police and the government wanted to monitor community relations and tensions that might be taking place,
Hmm,
which sounds a little bit sinister. I mean, kind of
hmm,
again, it's one of those things where you understand the logic, but you think, well, it's being this isn't the right solution to whatever problem you're trying to solve.
But there's clearly, there's clearly two. Well, there's clearly a line, but there are two different things here. So, in the case of Alison Pearson, well, for anyone for that matter, if a police officer turns up at your door, they should have the authority, and it should be, funny enough, whatever you've done wrong, I think it's fair, and you're right. I mean, you could be a mass murderer, but the police officer's got to turn up at your door and say, "I'm here to talk to you about, the murder," or "I'm here to talk to you about
Well,
that
here's the
crime,"
body. Can we talk
or
about the
yes,
body, please?
yes, they'd say the police have got surely you've got to tell you what it is that they're there for. I don't necessarily think that they have to tell you who's made the complaint, but if you say someone has complained about this tweet because you've said this, and they can actually identify. What's the point turning up to someone's house to say, "I can't tell you what you've said, I can't tell you who's complained, but we're here to tell you, and it's not a crime, but I'm here to." What on
What's
earth
the
are you doing at my
point?
door? Get out!
What's the point? What
Exactly.
is I just don't understand. It's like going to a bar and saying, I'm not going to meet anyone. I'm not going to order a drink. I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm just going to sort of sit there with a paper bag over my head.
Well, it's just a regular Saturday night, isn't it?
I don't have a paper bag anymore. Sadly, my partner has made it plastic.
Plastic.
What
Oh.
are you doing this weekend then, Charlie? You out on the Raz?
No, I'm not. This is. Do you actually want to know what I'm doing this weekend?
Yes.
This is where I should make something up. But I'm actually going to have a. I might go out tomorrow afternoon. No, sorry, Sunday. I like a Sunday afternoon. Saturday nights, I'm no longer. I never liked a Saturday night out. I have to say, just I think there's too much expectation on the Saturday, and it just
Oh,
becomes too fake and false. Friday night after work, that's when it's organic and people have a few drinks and relax, and you can have a good night.
so what are
But
you going to do on Sunday?
well, I think I might see a few friends. A friend of mine has just he quit his job or left his job in financial services and retrained as a firefighter. And he has
Oh,
yes, and he is just fully qualified now. So I think Sunday afternoon is a way of us all going out to celebrate with him.
and do you think that he'll? I don't know, like do you know like they do with champagne bottles? Do you think he'll spray you all with his hose as a celebratory moment?
With any luck.
Is he a good friend? Is he that
Chance
kind
of
of?
it, I think. No, he's very no, he's a
You
good
were
friend.
very popular at the Conservative conference, I have to say. You
Well,
had gentleman caller after gentleman caller.
well, that's very kind of you to say. I wasn't paying any attention. I was too busy looking for you, searching for you to come into the VIP section. I was trying to get you in, no end.
Yeah, see, we're back where we started. Oh, actually, this actually reminds me. Show me your muscles. Come on,
Oh yes.
come on.
Well, I've been going to the gym a
You've
little.
been working out a bit, haven't you?
I've I've been sort of,
Look at that. The
there
left,
you go.
the left one seems a bit bigger than the right one.
Well, I
Oh,
think I've angled wrong, but I've only recently started going to the gym. This is new. Not well, I've been going to the gym for a long, but not taking it seriously. I just sometimes I
oh.
turn up. I might just do.
Are you doing your protein shakes?
It's a little bit of it's only a little bit of protein, but it is literally, and I know everybody says it, but it is true. Diet is 90% of it, and whereas before I was, even though I was going to the gym and I used to do a lot of cardio, so I used to run quite a lot, and still do, but less so now. But you can, when you're, freelance or when you're sort of working in politics or when you're in, you're always on the go, so it's always very easy to buy uh, uh, whatever supermarket sandwiches from lunch, pizzas, or to takeouts because you're working day and night.
Mm.
But as soon as you get a bit of a diet, and I don't have a diet plan. It's just um, moderated meals, but healthier meals. Um,
So what will you eat for dinner tonight?
um, I've got actually funny enough, I've got a cottage pie, which
Have
isn't
you? What you've like a supermarket bought one?
well, it is now 5 to 8. I don't know what time this
Oh,
airs, but on a
so
Friday
it is
night.
getting a
So
bit late.
I'm,
Actually, no, you
I'm
shouldn't
not.
have given a time there because we're timeless, babes.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's beyond cooking.
We have gone on, haven't we?
No, it's great. It's great to do. But the other thing that I'm doing, I'm telling you everything now.
Oh, God.
Is when I came back from when I went to New York. I don't watch that many films. I don't tend to watch. It takes me a while to get into a film, or because I always get fidgety and think I could be doing something else.
I think you've got
Um,
ADHD.
Well, well, it just films. I'm just not a. I just think it's 2.5 hours. I'll never get back, and I could be sort of organising something or doing something or looking at something else or
Spending time with Ben
reading
Leo.
or what.
Spending time with Ben Leo.
All that exactly. But on the way, I thought, no, well, you've got time to kill on a plane, obviously. So I'll watch a couple of films. I watched Barbie, which I wasn't overly.
I loved Barbie. I loved Barbie.
I just thought it. I got the message, but once you've got the message once or twice, it becomes a bit sort of right. Okay, okay, I get it now. But I couldn't overly. But on the way back, I tried to watch a couple of serious films, but that didn't work because it was too loud and the sound was too. Anyway, I popped on a couple of Harry Potters, and I thought, this is amazing. I've not watched Harry Potter, and I don't think I've actually watched them all the way through. So this week, I said to myself, I'll watch a Harry Potter every night, and I've got up to 4 or 5 now.
You've spent every night with Daniel Radcliffe.
I have, I have. That's how people
Does he
talk.
have a wand? I've never
That's
watched
how
I've never watched a Harry Potter. I've never read Harry Potter. I've never watched a Harry Potter.
I think you might quite enjoy them.
No, I've never. And do you know what else I didn't get into? Is Lord of the Rings.
Well, they're quite long. I don't think I've seen both of them.
Do you know? It's a little nickname I used to give myself, but I never got into the movies.
What was the nickname you gave yourself?
Lord of the Rings.
Oh. Yes.
Because I was a fan of literature. That's why.
Of course. You the
was a
Tolkien of your time. The
Great
Tolkien of your
fan
time.
of Tolkien. A great fan of Tolkien. Well, on that note, thank you for putting the world right with me. Now, at Charlie Rowley 18, isn't it? Is that your social media handle?
It's my age. I'm approaching 18.
I did want. Well, that's weird if you were
In-
actually 17 at the moment now. With
In the
everything
wrong. Well, I'm approaching it from the wrong direction. But
why is it 18?
it
Were you
is
18 when you got the profile?
no. I've only been. I've not been on Twitter now, X, all that long.
Look, I feel like you've been stored in an airtight container for the last couple of years. And suddenly,
Yes.
like you found television,
Well-
you found commentary, you found X, you found LinkedIn, you found saunas, found Ben Leo.
Now Ben Leo. I mean, what more do you need? Because when you're working in politics, you're not allowed to have a voice. Really, it's not supposed to be you comment as a spokesperson through the media. You don't have your own tweets or your own profile or anything. I mean, maybe it's changing a little bit, but certainly as a special advisor, you weren't encouraged.
Did Michael Gove keep you restrained?
He was a brilliant boss in every way. So no, we weren't restrained. We were able to contribute to conversation and debate, and every day was a good debate. We would all, as a team,
Good.
go through the. Yes, no, it was.
Having a good and healthy debate is very important.
I
Who
concur.
doesn't like a nice debate?
I concur.
Yes, thank you. And on that note,
how's DP?
DP is absolutely. She's left the room now. There is no DP in this room now. I'm afraid. But listen, on that note, listen. Now I'm legally obliged to ask us subscribe. Please subscribe, because apparently it's subscribers which make this thing. And so subscribe by clicking below. And please subscribe. It would be really nice if you did, because apparently I need to do that because I've got to try and build this thing, right?
Well, hopefully we've helped, or I've helped in some small.
I don't know if you have. I don't know. I don't know whether you're going to be more popular. Last week with Benedict, or the week before last, we got 15,000 views.
Wow.
So this is going to be a real test on your popularity, Charlie Rowley.
Well, I'll hit the phone.
No amount of DP is going to change how popular you are, I tell you.
I'll ditch Harry Potter this evening and I'll hit the phones. Get people on.
Would you mind? And start retweeting this out. Why don't you how many followers has Ben Leo got?
Oh, quite a few, I should have.
I'm going to look at how many followers Ben Leo has got. It should be called the Ben Leo Show. Ben Leo, hang on.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him.
He's got 29,000 followers. So I think the fact that he has been such a prominent part of this particular broadcast should mean that he could at least retweet us. Could you
I think
arrange that, please? Perhaps in one of your more intimate moments. He's actually a married man with children.
yes, yes,
Wholly inappropriate.
yes. But we got on very well.
Oh,
We had no. We had a good time. We good, good holiday. And I might be going to Turkey next. You know, I think I might be going there next week. I think
where?
Istanbul.
What are you doing there?
Well, I've been invited to go with a friend. So
Dubai. And Leo.
not Ben, not
Does Ben
Ben.
Leo go anywhere without you now?
Well, I don't know. I'm assuming he does.
Is he there now? Is
In
he?
the-
I can't.
Get back in the kitchen. Get back.
Enjoy Istanbul. Why are you going to Istanbul? Just a holiday?
Yes, yes. No, I'm going with a friend who is exploring. I think the prospect of maybe doing something similar to you, to what you've had. But I will.
Oh, so you're going to get your teeth done?
No, no, no. It's not me. But now that you've mentioned it, I told you that you have inspired me.
Show
I
me your
might need.
teeth. They're good teeth you've got. You've got a very full mouthful of teeth, though. I've always thought that.
Well, yes, I've got it's well, I didn't finish about talking about my braces. I never wore my retainers, so they've got a little bit crooked at the front. So I might just need them sort of at some stage, not before Christmas, not this year, and maybe leveled off a bit, and
Well,
maybe whitened a little bit.
I always associate you with a mouthful. Nothing will change as a result of your teeth. And it's been lovely having you. Please subscribe. Please follow Charlie on social media, Charlie Rowley 18. Please follow me, Cristo_radio. This channel is, of course, at Cristo_radio. I don't know if you knew that, Charlie. And it's been lovely seeing you. We'll be back again next weekend. We're going to have Russell Quirk next week, where we're going to have me putting the world right with Russell. But for now, Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Lovely
much.
to see you. Lovely to have some Charlie on the weekend. And we'll be back next time.
I'm the only Charlie you need, Cristo.
I am the only, you are the only Charlie I ever need. And you pet me up like there's no tomorrow. See you later.
Goodbye.